We are here. We are streaming. Welcome back to another Talk About It Tuesday. We are still in May, which is Mental Health Awareness Month for those who do not know. And I got a very, very special guest today, and I am so excited. He is here and he said yes to this. So JT, I met him through a mutual friend. We both went to Bethune-Cookman together. Yes, the great Bethune-Cookman.
Yes.
And now we are both in the mental health field.
Mhm.
So just to tell, I'm gonna let JT tell a little bit about himself and what he does, but y'all are in for a treat with
Yes.
JT today.
Yes. Let's
So
do it.
as we discuss self-awareness and finding that inner strength. So JT, tell the people who you are and what you do in the mental
All right.
health field.
Yeah. Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jamaris Tompkins. I go by JT. By way of Tampa, Florida. I am a graduate, two-time graduate of Bethune-Cookman University. Um, bachelor's degree in religion and philosophy. Was studying Christian ministry, and then got my master's in mental health counseling. So uh, definitely an honor to be here, Jaleesa. I appreciate the opportunity. Man, today's gonna be good. I'm excited. I prep, just all weekend. I just couldn't hold back the nerves. So, but I feel today is gonna be really good. Very insightful. And we're here to help others. So I've been in the mental health field, social work field for about 7 years, 8 years coming up this year. Um, Man, I just learned so much experience, so many experiences with clients, just coming into myself as a therapist, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and just meeting a lot of good people along the way, like yourself, and just our community of therapists that we share. Um, so yeah, man, I'm excited to share today. I, I know everybody's gonna learn from this, even us, So we get this opportunity. So here we are.
I'm excited, yes. And this is a much needed conversation because I
Yeah.
feel like before you can do anything else, you have to be self-aware.
Yes.
You have to be aware of yourself
Yes.
and what you have going on. So let's dive right in. Let's
Uh,
talk about self-awareness.
Man,
What's self-awareness?
self-awareness, man, is coming into yourself and being the best version of you, of who you could be, right? I boil it down to just how we always say, like, that biological, that physiological self, that psychological self, that emotional self, um,
Mm-hmm.
that sexual self, even within that, right? Who you are, right? And I ask a lot of clients that when you're dealing with self-awareness and getting to know yourself, who are you, right? That's the first.
Mm,
I feel like that's the first level in understanding your identity of self-awareness, is understanding who you are, right? um,
mm,
Everybody has a different purpose in life, everybody has different passions in life, and it's all about setting into what that is for you. um, and you could take it in different lenses, where there's a spiritual background, right, or just a whole secular, the secularism of it is just understanding our identities and who we are. One of the things I
mm.
live by is definitely like, how can you be good for somebody else when you're not good for yourself?
Come on. That's the big one.
We talk about pouring our cups, right, filling our cups, and cups overflowing, right? If we're this,
Right.
and we're filling ourselves up. But if we're operating on half emptiness, we can't be
Mm-hmm.
good for nobody else,
Right.
right? So a lot of these things, I really love teaching about boundaries, coming into boundaries, and how far
Ooh.
you stretch yourself, right? A lot of people get really, I would say, just really worn down because they don't know how to say no, right?
Mm,
And I just believe when you come into that reality that, like, you could only go so far, or you could only take so much, that's part of your self-awareness and being able to say no. That's part of your strength and being able to say no. So and even making decisions for yourself, right? It's not selfish, right? Now if you come, it's a few avenues you could take with that, but, and like, when we generalize this, it's just being the best version of you that you can be,
for
emotionally,
sure.
mentally, physically, spiritually, whatever. It's just being that version of you, being that best version. So That's what I
For
would say
sure.
is how self-awareness would be, especially, right, being a male. We talk about emotional intelligence, right? At my agency here, we have these
Mm-hmm.
group studies every Monday. And
Mm-hmm.
this week, for the few men who are therapists within this agency, we talked about emotional intelligence, right? Which revolves around self-awareness,
Self-awareness, being
right?
aware.
That
Right.
revolves about
Right.
around you knowing your emotions and what you are feeling, how you're feeling, and being able to communicate forward what you are feeling
Mm-hmm.
to the prospective parties. So, um, just even starting there, right? We're going really deep with this, but it's just all about just overall well-rounding
Knowing
yourself,
yourself.
a very good self-aware individual.
For sure. I love that. And one of the things you say, and I want to go back to, is the cup. And because a lot of the times, us as clinicians, we teach our clients about filling their cup and pouring
Yes.
into their cup.
Yeah.
So just to take a moment and sit with that, because I feel like that's big, pouring
Yeah.
from an empty cup, filling yourself, overflowing blessings, things like that. When you think about the cup, how do people begin to even like? Because it starts with the foundation.
Yes.
So how strong is your cup?
Hmm.
Is your cup a glass? Is your cup, you know, plastic, paper, so it
Right.
starts with the foundation with that. So can we dive
Yeah.
even just a little bit more into like the foundation and where people can begin to build that foundation to even be able to pour into their cup?
Yeah. I think it starts with recognizing your limits, your limitations.
Mm.
Um, I think it starts revolving around how far you could go and testing how far you could go. Sometimes it's one of those things where you have to push the limit just to see the limit in a sense. So, um,
Mm.
I think that's just how you recognize, okay, I'm doing all these things and now I'm starting to get wore down. Um, and that's how I tell clients, like, I really don't tell them, like, oh, push yourself to the limit, right? But they come to us already at that limit. And so one of the
Right.
things you test is, okay, what do you need to take off of your plate? Because again,
Mm.
you're stretching yourself, right? I'm sorry, I'm in my office, but you're stretching yourself this wide and you're being pulled side to side, and you have
Right.
no more room left for even yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
so it starts with understanding your limit, how far you are stretched already.
Mm-hmm.
And if
Mm-hmm.
you even have the capacity to give any more to anybody else, like, because you still have family, right? If you got kids, you got husband or wife at home, you serve at church, you serve in this community, you serve doing
Do
this.
that.
What
Mm-hmm.
are you doing for yourself?
Mm-hmm. What are some signs you see, like whether it's with clients you work with or just even out in the community? What signs do you see when people don't have that self-awareness? Like, what do you
Um,
notice in their behaviors or
I typically see,
emotions?
yeah, I typically see one, they look really physically beat, right? So you see body language. That's one of the biggest things that I really see throughout clients, but also emotionally, how are you?
Mm-hmm.
Emotionally, are you kind of a little bit unstable? You don't have good thoughts right now. You're a little bit more overwhelmed than certain or than usual. Um, you might make some irrational decisions, right? Certain things like that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
People come in different forms. They come in different conditions, um, and I think that's the biggest challenge is to pull out of them that potential of
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, where do we go from here? What do you need to do to get back to yourself? So people come in really a lot of different emotional and mental states, right? Um,
Right.
some could be chemical, some could be genetic, right? Genetically or chemically made up, right? With these things, but
Mm-hmm.
it's all about how the information is presented to us and we take it and we put it in a form of getting them to understand, like, okay, this makes sense. I need to take something off my plate.
Right.
I need to do more for myself because my
Mm-hmm.
thoughts have been irrational.
Mm-hmm.
I've been a little bit more snappy. I've been a little bit more angrier. I've been feeling down. I haven't been feeling loved. I haven't been feeling this and that and this and that. Or I've been
Mm-hmm.
thinking these things. And it really takes a toll because again, it goes back to that thing where it's like, if I'm not good, my family ain't gonna be good. Or
Right.
if I'm not good, work ain't gonna be good for me because now
That's true.
I'm clouded with these things. All these things, this weight is on me, and it's really
Mhm.
affecting me. It's
Mhm.
affecting my day-to-day functionality. So
Mhm. Mhm.
just just I tell people, just really reflect on that. Look at your day in and day outs. Look at your day-to-day routines and stuff like that. Look at your day-to-day, just what you do every week, and figure
Mhm.
out how much can you give back to yourself with the time that you do have. And it's okay to be selfish, to say no to certain things. Like friends want to hang out and you driving yourself. Like I'm telling you, you dread it already. You had a long week, and you sometimes it's good for you, right, to go out and enjoy your friends without the kids. I'm
Yeah.
not knocking it,
Right.
but if it feels like it's another thing to do, then we got to
And
figure
you
out
have to
something.
figure out. Yeah. And one of the ways that I like to do with my clients is like there's like daily logs or
Yeah,
like tracking. So like
yeah,
writing down what it is that you're feeling, because sometimes people don't have those people to come and tell them like, oh, you looking like you're down, or you seem a little off, you don't seem like yourself.
mhm,
And that's why I think it's important too. And even if you have those people, to also track yourself, like how you're feeling. That's why I'm a huge advocate for journaling.
yes,
And then when you're journaling, you're able to I encourage people to date their journal entry. But then
yes,
after that, just write down, how they're feeling, what's going on, and then go back and look at what you wrote to see what was going on
yeah,
there.
yeah,
Because it could be challenging. It could be
yes, yes,
challenging to be
yes.
self-aware. And then when people call you out, now let's be real. Like when people call you out on your stuff
Right.
and you like, that ain't me, that's not
That
how
ain't
that, like,
right.
they're not, would you say they're not self-aware, or like,
No, I wouldn't say they're not self-aware. They got to be ready to hear the truth about themselves.
mm, ooh, okay.
Can I say it again? Right? Like you also have to be prepared to hear the truth about yourself and not enter a defense mode. People get defensive when other people start telling about themselves, and then you're like, I don't do that. No, you do. No, you are right. People enter defense mode, and it's sometimes it's just literally bringing truth to you, bringing truth to the light, right? It's one of those
Mhm.
truth cell set you
Set
free,
you free. Yep,
right?
we've
But
heard that growing up.
you know what I'm saying? So it's one of those things,
Mhm.
like you have to bear the witness of truth and be in a place where you're ready to hear these things, or you're ready to really face reality, right? One of the things I'm big on teaching, I don't teach avoidance. That's not a
Okay.
language in my office. I don't teach you
Mhm.
to avoid what you're feeling, right? A lot of people have this habit of feeling certain things or whatever, and they sweep it under the rug. Oh, I'll be on, right. One of the things a lot of us learn growing up in some households is you feel something, you don't really address it. You take it to the chin and you move on. But what that does create for your emotions is stagnant. You don't move emotionally. You grasp this sort of mindset where that it's okay to suppress my feelings. It's okay to suppress where I am. Which essentially is not healthy, because now when people do you wrong, are you going to suppress? When things don't turn your way, right? Are you going to suppress? What's your way out, right? You got to give yourself the opportunity to voice these things and process these things. If somebody
Mhm.
hurts you, you got to be able to process and be able to come to the table and be like, look, this hurt me. What you
Mhm.
said hurt me. What you did hurt me. You know?
Mhm.
Um, so
Can I
self-awareness,
ask, how do you do that though? Like, how do you do that? And more so for if a person is struggling,
mhm,
because ourself, from what I'm learning and what I know, our self-awareness starts in childhood.
mm,
And how we're growing up, just like you said, even growing up, we were taught certain things, and certain things had to be done based off of previous generations. So how does somebody who was taught not to express their feelings or express themselves, how can they now, as adults, or transitioning into adulthood, how can they How can they handle that?
Yeah, go to therapy.
But hey, they're not, let's be real, they're not aware of themselves to know, like, hey,
Right.
I need to be in
Yeah.
therapy.
No, that's a great question. Um, I think there has to be a boundary somewhere that you have to excuse me, excuse me, you have to put up for yourself and like not take that anymore. Not allow yourself to be in a sense in that position or that state anymore because you recognize
Mhm.
the state that it puts you in. It puts you in a extreme stress. Um, it can cause bitterness, right? It could cause
Mhm.
a lot of issues between you and that person, you and that relationship, you and this, you and that, and you're just sitting on it. And so, meanwhile, while you're sitting
Mhm.
on all these feelings, anger is festing now, frustration is festering, and just all these other things are festering within you because you have not addressed what you need to address with that person. So how do you do that? I think coming into yourself, like you said, journaling. I always recommend you write down what you are feeling.
Right.
And the first step in that is just acknowledging that you feel something. Like
Oh, that's a big
personally
one.
within yourself, right? You don't even have to go to that person and be like, you know what, I acknowledge I feel this. No, let's not even start there. Let's start with you. Acknowledge where you are. Acknowledge what you're
Mm.
feeling. If you are angry, be angry. If you are upset, be upset. And it is
Mhm.
okay. These are real emotions.
Mhm.
These are real things that people feel.
Yeah,
And I think
that's it.
the place that you have to get to is like recognizing, okay, now that I acknowledge this, how do
Mhm.
I move forward? And I think
Ooh.
that's just where we have to come submit it under the knowledge of somebody else in that area and figure and ask, okay, like if you got a friend that you know handle everything aggressively and they like to fight, I don't think that's the best friend to talk to. But I think if you go to someone with some really
Mhm.
good sound advice of how to deal with this, to challenge your thinking, challenge your positioning, and be like, okay, I want you
Mhm.
to be humble enough to submit to this and understand, like, listen, okay, this is how I would handle it. Step one, two, and three, because it'll make sense. And it'll be
Mhm.
almost like reaffirming and reassuring to yourself. So, um,
Mhm.
and then I think you just proceed on that and communicate it to that person, like, hey, look, we need to meet, we need to talk about this. And I guarantee you, like 9 times out of 10, you'll feel so much better that you approached it, that you even talked
Mhm.
about it, right? You going through all these steps, and now you can move on with wherever you are
Mhm.
within those
Mhm.
relationships, right? Um,
Mhm. So I'm hearing you say like checking yourself, but more so like, okay, so you ever say like a lot of things is going on around you and you like struggling like with relationships and you're like, well, why am I losing this relationship? Or why is this happening in this relationship and things like that? And they come back around, and they say, well, you need to check yourself. And you're like, well, you ever have somebody like, well, I ain't the problem. I'm sure we've all been there before. Like,
yeah,
I'm sure, I know I have.
yeah,
Can't pinpoint when,
right,
but I know I've been there where it's just like, I ain't the problem. It ain't me, da 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 da. But then, I take a step back and I'm like, well, dang,
hmm,
I did do this and I did do, I may have, said that, but it's all in perspective too.
yes,
That's another
yes,
thing that comes to mind when we eat, as we discuss that self-awareness is
yes,
the perspective, and that's a
yeah,
big one.
yeah. Reflection, right? Reflection.
Mm-hmm.
Perspective is
Mm-hmm.
reflection. Really take a step back and really analyze. Okay, was I wrong? Was I really wrong? And really kind of replay, okay, your responses. And mind you, you're not in control of this other person. You're in control of your responses, your thought process, and how you approach it, how
Mm-hmm.
you approach these different scenarios. Um, but also, like, you got to wake up and smell the flowers. It could very well be you, and that's hard to hear. Some people don't want to hear that, right? I do a
That
lot of marriage.
is.
I do a lot of marriage therapy, right? And
Oh, God
they
bless you for the
oh
marriage.
my gosh, they
If
come
y'all
with some
looking for a
stuff.
marriage counselor,
Yeah,
JT's your guy. Woo, marriage.
yeah,
Woo,
yeah. And
couple
here's the thing, I
counselors.
always set the record. I'm not on. I don't take sides. I'm 100% honest. And if I tell you you're wrong, it's because I really hear that you're wrong. And I take time to really hear both sides.
Mm-hmm.
And we work through it together. So I don't point fingers. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not biased. It's none of that. But I really work to help couples strengthen their
Right.
relationship, really strengthen those basic communication skills. And you'd be surprised how a lot of people come here, they don't have basic communication skills.
Mm-hmm.
It
Which
hurts,
starts in
right?
childhood,
Yes,
And what I'm learning and seems to be coming up a lot lately is just the relationships from childhood and
yes,
how your caregiver, your parents, communicated with you or allowed you to communicate. Because I know even me growing up, I'm not that old,
right.
but I know there was a point where it was like a child is to be seen and
Yes,
not heard. So it
yes,
wasn't there's no communication or things like that. And it sounds like that's what a lot of um generations, our
yes,
generation, generations
yes,
before
yes.
learned, like,
Right,
there's no communication, there's no
right,
this. So it was like really hard to really find yourself and learn how
right,
to
right.
communicate. Or if you see your parents not
Yeah,
communicate or communicate in a certain way, that's how you feel you're
right.
supposed to communicate.
It's trained and learned behavior, right? And that's the
Mm-hmm.
basis of it, right? It's just those basic communication skills. A lot of times we don't like to address certain things and we avoid certain things for a few reasons. I really thought about this, avoided behaviors, because it's like we either don't want to hurt the other person, we don't want to offend the other person, or like we just don't want to do it at all because we're scared.
Mm-hmm.
We're scared of the outcome because we can't control the outcome. But communication is just as simple as like, okay, like recognizing, acknowledging what I feel, get it down on
Mm-hmm.
paper, get some sound advice. So that's like accountability. I'm big on that.
Mm-hmm.
Big on a real sound accountability person who's able to tell you you're wrong, and you might not receive it at first, but you add heed to this. So it could be
Mm-hmm.
a pastor, it could be a sister, right? It could be just somebody you've met along the way where that you hold at a high standard, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they get all up in your business, like you vulnerable with this person, right? And I
Right.
always recommend everybody needs that person. I got a few of them, right? And every
Mm-hmm.
last one of these guys I go to, JT, you was wrong. You wrong.
Right.
It's hard for
Right.
me to hear that, but guess what?
Mm-hmm.
Because I honor you and I value your perspective in my life, your voice in my life. Tell me where I was wrong. That way I can go
Mm-hmm.
back and fix it. So everybody needs that, but also like just learning how to approach these. I teach a lot of approach and delivery. Your approach and delivery matters. So if I approach it
Mm-hmm.
aggressive, you might get that response back. So you can't get mad if I respond back to you like that way.
Mm-hmm.
So basic communication skills is just recognizing like
Mm-hmm.
where you are, acknowledge that. And then two, like get it down on paper. Three, run it by somebody. Hey, this situation
Mm-hmm.
come up, right? And you ain't got to spill all your business, but this situation come up. I just wanted some sound advice on this. And then,
Mm-hmm.
you know, pull that person to the side, be like, hey, we need to talk about this. I did something
Mm-hmm.
you did just really set me back.
I got you.
So and I think it just starts with that.
For sure. Well, as you were speaking, a question came up for me as, do you feel self-awareness plays a part in a person's ego?
Um, that's a good
'Cause
question. Never thought about that. That's a good question.
right, right. It just makes you think. Like for me, as I was thinking about that, I'm just like a person's self-awareness, like to even admit that they were wrong. Because some people won't admit that they're wrong. Because again, going back to the
Mm,
perception of other
yeah,
people and what other people would think, they don't want to be
yeah,
wrong, or they don't want, I think that's the biggest thing. What I'm learning and what I see is that the person doesn't want to be wrong. So instead of admitting that they were wrong, that
yeah,
does something to that
yeah,
bruises their ego, does something to their
yeah,
ego.
yeah, yeah. And ego is pride, right? And I think
Mm-hmm.
even too is how I mentioned that accountability. That's even a
Mhm.
step of like, okay, I got to lower my pride to go to this person to seek that higher wisdom because you don't
Mhm.
know everything. You won't, right? Now, if people are all stuck up in their ways and right, that's for them to do it because it'll never get solved. And you're thinking, okay, what I'm doing is okay.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, like you have to remove that layer. You have to remove that, especially if we talk about you want to be better, you want to learn how to handle situations better and all these things. You want to get so frustrated. First step is like you got to move yourself out of the way, and you
Mm.
got to be able to take that criticism in a sense.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
do I feel like people's egos can play into self awareness? Yes, I think it does and it can. Um,
Mhm.
it's all about do you want to get better from there. So
Mhm.
that's just my piece on that. That's what I think.
Good.
That's a
It's a
good
deep
question.
question. It's a good
Yeah,
question. We
that's
gonna
a
do
good
some
question.
research and come come back to that because it made me think like ego, self-awareness is different. It's
Yeah.
definitely different, but in a way it intertwines.
Yes. Yes. 100%. No. Yeah. That's a great question. I'm gonna have to take that and think about that. Eat on that tonight.
Good.
Um, because like you said earlier, we've all been to that place where we it was hard for us. Like we'll say something and we did something, and then people like, no, it's you, it's your fault. And you like, man, it ain't my fault. Blah blah blah. Right. So
Again, perspective.
perspective. Right. So
Mhm.
part of it, I think, is just you have to be ready to take that truth that
Mhm.
really is you, or it really could be you. You know.
It could be for sure. I think more so when you look around and see that a lot of things I don't want to say a lot of things are crumbling, but sometimes like when you look around and you're like, oh my God, this isn't going right, or why am I arguing with this person, or this and that is going on. It's just like you have to take a step back and say, that's
Yes.
why I feel self-awareness is big and coming at is like you have to take a step back and say, well, what's going on? What am I doing? Am I
Yeah.
overwhelmed?
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't always have to be a negative thing. It's
Right.
just like, okay, this isn't working, that's not working. What am I doing or not doing? And I love to ask this question. And again, let me pause and say, guys watching, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat
Yeah.
and we will get those questions answered. We want to thank you all for tuning in, and we would love to interact with you all as well. So if you
Yes.
have any questions, please drop the questions in. If you are
Yes.
watching this on a replay, we will get those questions still
Yes.
answered, and we will drop our information in so
Yes.
that you can hit us up and
Yes.
we get your question answered.
Yeah.
Um, but see, my adult brain, it'd be all what I was saying before I
Let
said
me go
that.
open the door for somebody real quick. All right.
All right.
Real quick.
And
All right.
Josiah, if we have any questions, please drop them um in the chat.
All right. Sorry about that. My apologies.
No, you're good. I was telling Josiah if you have any questions, um you can drop them in. But I would love to hear um, those who are tuning in what your thoughts are when it comes to self awareness, um, and just what do you think about
Yeah.
self awareness? But
Yeah.
one of the things you were saying that I wanted to get back to was dang, that's why I take notes because I always lose my train of thought. This is
Yeah.
exactly why I
Yeah.
take because I'm so
Yeah.
excited and it's so much to go with it. But I did write down another
Okay.
question I wanted your thoughts on. Um, you mentioned control
Yeah.
and taking over that control. So the question that came to mind is, can you control your self awareness?
Can you control your self awareness? Absolutely.
Yeah.
100% you can.
Okay. How?
It's all within what you have and what you do with what you have.
Mm, okay.
It's all within what you have and what you do with what you have. So a lot of people, um, I'm very transparent. I don't really take excuses. I don't.
Okay.
Because if you get a therapist that's just gonna beat around the bush with you, that's not a good fit. You want somebody to push you. You need a community that's gonna push you and not allow. And this is just stuff I've learned developing my therapeutic profile in a sense. Um, if you allow clients to give you excuses, they're going to keep giving them to you, and you're going to keep accepting them. But
Mm.
also, I tell clients the only way to find out if it works is to actually do it.
Mm-hmm.
So if we talk about like self-care, if you say you go, and I'm not even talking about like no new year, new me, I'm gonna hit the gym type thing. But if you
Mm-hmm.
really know like you need an outlet, okay, let's just start walking in the evenings. Let's
Mm-hmm.
choose 2 to 3 evenings throughout the week or whatever your time of day is, and let's just start there. I
Mm-hmm.
don't give them nothing else. No other type of coping skills, outlets, whatever. Let's just start with that or whatever you choose. So for 2 or 3 nights, we're gonna start there. If you come back to me and this is not done, okay, what are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing? You know? Um, and if we come back 3 weeks from now and still nothing has been done, what are we doing? And
Right.
you're coming to me with the same, oh, I'm feeling overwhelmed. Well, what are you doing? I'm giving you stuff,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's like a love-hate relationship. I'm giving you
Right.
things. But to only actually see if this fits for you, you actually have to do it. You have to
Right.
try it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's just where it starts is like actually putting in the effort to actually do what you need to do. We're not
Mm.
babysitters, right? Yes, we could be an added layer of accountability, but guess what? We got family at home. So at
Mm-hmm.
the end of the day, it's all revolved within a choice. You
Mm-hmm.
have to make the choice to do it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So
I
one of the
love
things you
that. I
said,
do
if you're
challenge
gonna
my
walk it out,
clients to.
talk it out. If you're gonna talk it
There
out,
you
walk it
go.
out. Be about it, be about your business.
There you go. I always tell my clients too, it's like I'm gonna challenge you. I'm gonna have you, um, because I didn't come here to just agree, you didn't come to me for me to just agree,
Right,
with everything. You came here because you obviously wanted something to change
right.
and you wanted to work towards something.
Yes.
So,
Yeah,
it's okay to be challenged. It's going to be uncomfortable as well. So even,
absolutely.
you know, unlearning, like you had said earlier, unlearning to relearn behaviors. And I think that is extremely, extremely important. And I tell my clients, all the time that, okay, it did not work this time. So let's go back and reflect. And this is, see, everything come full circle. That's why
Full
I write
circle.
stuff down,
Mhm.
because what I always have my clients do too is answer this question of, what do I need more of? What do I need
Mm.
to be doing more of?
Mhm.
But then there's also the question of, what do I need to be doing less of?
Mhm.
Right.
Mm.
And that's one of the best questions I feel you can check in with yourself and say, okay, what do I need to do more of to make this work? What do I need to do less of to maybe, again, see how to make it better?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's all
It's a big deal.
self-awareness is just overall we're saying like how much more or how grammatically I don't even know how to would say it, but like
Mm-hmm.
balance better. Let's just
Mm-hmm.
balance where we are better. And I think as you grow and you set into that, you will start to make the necessary changes in your life where it's like, okay, nope, I can't do this anymore. Nope. Right. A lot of us, after you get to a point in your life, you start reflecting, you're like, dang, I was doing all this. Like, I'm doing too
Mm-hmm.
much, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why I don't got no time for myself. That's why I ain't got,
Mm-hmm.
single parents too, right? Like, even that villages, right? Your village is important if you have one. I pray everybody has a village, but it's hard to come across and trusting people with even just the little things. So um
Mm-hmm.
don't feel selfish for like sending your kids to school and you take a day off.
Mm-hmm.
You work hard for your PTO, use it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I say it's so many avenues. It's no excuses. No excuses. Even if you buy yourself 2 Fridays out of a month to do something for yourself, even if you
Mm-hmm.
don't have a community or a village that can watch your kids, send them kids to school, you take a day off. That is okay. It's okay to be selfish. You need to give back to yourself. And that's how you become well balanced, because at the end of the day, if you are not good if you're empty, you're not good for your family.
You're not good for anyone.
You're not good for anybody. And now
Anybody.
your work performance is going down.
Mm-hmm.
People find you slacking in a lot of areas. You're forgetting things. You just all over the place. You're a mess. You're just a mess. You
Mm-hmm.
know.
And
So
yeah, I
mhm.
like that
So
for
part
sure.
of that, you gotta get back to yourself. Get
Mm-hmm.
back to yourself, right? And
Right.
um we can talk about even true like inner peace and happiness, right? That's a whole thing within itself, and how you even discover that. But again, like I said, I think it's just all revolving the identity of self-awareness.
Right. And the big thing that comes up, and like you had said, was just the emotional aspect and just recognizing how your body is feeling.
Yes.
So I could say for me, I've gotten better. So I am the mother of 3.
Yes.
And when I find myself like really, really amped up, I have to like really check myself and say, okay, it's not them, it's something else. Whether it's, work, whether it's feeling overwhelmed, things like that. And I feel myself like my patience.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's just really knowing yourself, like your patience may be getting thinner. And I know you had
Yep.
mentioned that with just the frustration. It's like, I'm tired, I'm exhausted. I know I have to go and do this and this and this. But because I'm so exhausted, because I
Mm-hmm.
haven't taken time to, do other things, then I don't want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's really just checking yourself. And what's coming up for me is that mindfulness piece. I know when people
Yes.
think mindfulness is you have to sit there like
No.
meditation.
No.
No, that's
No.
not it. It's not it. It is really just being in tuned with your body
Yes.
and your thoughts.
Yes.
Thoughts is a big one. People tend to forget that they're not in tune with their thoughts. It's being in tune with your thoughts and what you're thinking, but
Yes.
also what you're feeling
Yes.
within your body.
Yeah.
And then saying, okay. And I feel like for me, I feel like that's where self-awareness starts.
Yes.
Within your
Yeah.
thoughts and within
Yeah.
your body
Yeah.
and what it is you're physically feeling
Yes. No,
as
that's
well.
true. That's true. Um, and I teach a lot of curriculum to kids, right? I specialize with kids, teenagers, young adults, even
Yes, we
adults.
love the babies.
You
Love
know,
the babies.
love the babies, right? Because these are prime years where you teach them how to handle your emotions. I don't care.
Right.
I started at the age of 5. Some people go lower,
Mm-hmm.
right? But 5 is like my cutoff limit. But I teach basic skills of like that triangle where you have thoughts, feelings, behaviors. All
CBT.
these
Yeah.
things intertwine. How you think,
Mm-hmm.
how you feel. So sometimes, right? You ever heard your mama say, "Man, you need to think before you act." Something's out of whack, right? That triangle out of whack. You need to think think before you act, think before you make a decision. But
Yeah.
respect, right? These things all relate. Your thoughts relate to your feelings relate to your
Their
actions and
actions.
all that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I think that's like CBT 101 that we learn, but we recognize like sometimes when we feel a certain way, we think a certain way. And when we think a certain way, we might move a certain
Move
way.
a certain way. That's true. It all
It's
connects.
true, right? So it's a true evidence based thing that's why it's called cognitive behavioral therapy, right? Because it's all
With your
all within
thoughts. It
that
starts
realm
with
of
your
thinking, right?
thoughts.
This is
It
therapy
does.
101, right?
Yeah.
So we just get deeper into it. We go deeper into it. But I like the mindfulness part. It's like coming into yourself, recognizing where you are,
Mm-hmm.
and like really making a choice and a decision like, okay, I need to do something better. I do.
Yeah. Right. And I feel like even going back to the self-awareness is just, again, starting with just recognizing how you feel. And you can do it all throughout the day. You can start in the morning with, um, putting your feet on the floor and
Mm-hmm.
recognizing how the floor feels.
Mm-hmm.
you know it can be winding down throughout the day. Again, how are you feeling? You're
Yeah.
feeling it, you're feeling exhausted, you're
Yeah.
feeling this, you're feeling that, really. And what I like to encourage my clients to do is put a name to it, put a
Yeah.
name to what
Mm-hmm.
it is that you're feeling,
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
then be able to address that
Yeah,
as
no.
well.
Yeah, very, very, very good. I like that. Um, may I share a book? One of the books um, that I share or I have on my plan
Resources.
is called Boundaries, and it
Yes,
says
we're here for it.
boundaries: when to say yes, how to say no, to take control of your life, and it teaches you just that, right? Um, and it's
Who is
great.
it by?
This is by Dr. Henry Cloud and Dr. John Townsend. You can find it on Amazon. I got this off, or go to Target, something like that. I think I got it on Amazon or Target.
Barnes and Nobles, Target,
Listen, something like
anywhere
that.
books are sold.
They have a whole series. So they have boundaries with like just overall boundaries. They have a
Hmm.
boundaries in marriage. They have boundaries with kids, boundaries with teens. It's a whole series. So whatever
Okay.
area, like, but for a more personalized thing, I definitely say read this. This is a really good one. Just the regular boundaries, and it
Hmm.
teaches you how to establish boundaries where they are necessary. And I
Ooh.
and I challenge people on that. Like, okay, where are your boundaries first?
Hmm.
And a lot of people, I hear a lot of people say, "Well, I don't have any boundaries. That's why I do it. I don't have any." But I'm like, do you really have to do it, or you feel like you have to do it?
To do it. It starts with the
You go,
boundaries.
oh, because
Yes.
I'm loyal. Oh, it's my loyalty. Okay. At the end of the day, like, do you really have to do it? No.
Right. You
So
don't. I
um,
like that.
I think these books teach you a good bit of stuff about just how to um, establish those boundaries and stuff like that.
Boundaries and
Resolutions,
things.
yeah, all these different things. So I really love this book, um, and just learning how to say no. Say
No's a
no.
complete sentence. That is
Man, talk about
no is a complete sentence, not no
talk
with the
about it,
marker,
right?
but
Talk
no
about
is a
it.
complete
Yeah,
no is a complete
yeah,
sentence. I
yeah.
don't
I
want
can,
to.
yeah, definitely. I think we had a question in the chat.
We have two questions in the chat.
Okay,
Yes.
I didn't see that
So
one. Oh,
this is for you. All right.
okay,
Um, how to encourage someone. Sorry, let me back up. I'm reading fast. How to encourage someone to seek therapy when they are afraid but are having thoughts that are normal.
okay. I think that is a good question. How to encourage someone to seek therapy when they are afraid but are having thoughts that are normal. Okay.
Mhm.
Um, Sometimes, right, people go to therapy for like self-development, right? I'm not saying
Mhm.
you don't always have to go to therapy to have issues. No, it's a well-rounded tool to like do check-ins with yourself. That could be your way to tap out or tap into yourself. Um,
Mhm.
like resources, some of these things that therapists have in their offices and stuff like that, just is good food for the mind, for your spirit and soul and stuff like that. So,
Mhm.
um, I think I'm a little biased because I approach it a certain way. And even to my own personal experience in therapy, I speak from that. So I would say
Mhm.
if you have had a positive experience, be transparent, right? If you had a positive experience and you've gone through therapy, use that as a one up. Like, look, I'm very transparent. I'm not saying you got to share all your business, but I came in one way, and this person really helped open me up to a lot of things, and I'm not
Mhm.
the same. Or whatever your experience is, right? We really talk about transparency, and a lot of times, again, once you reach that point, you got to kind of leave it in their hands. Don't keep, in a sense, probing, right? Be there to
Mhm.
support. But I think if you've had a great experience, not everybody has had a great experience, in therapy, and not every therapist is a good fit for every client. So, but I think if you approach it with care, because people can be at different states in their lives. But for the one, like you said, they are having normal thoughts, they could go for self development. If they want to grow in
Mhm.
some areas and get some better literacy in some areas, um, just um, challenge them on that.
Right.
What are you looking for?
Yeah. And I think the question that comes up for me, and that was great. The question that comes up for me is what is normal?
Right.
Like
I was going to
I
ask
don't
that. Well, what is
know
normal?
what is normal because you tread again, normal for you may not be normal for me. So
Right.
I think to find that baseline with what is normal, but
Yeah.
to even encourage someone to seek therapy, when they're afraid is to do the research. You
Yes.
know, with that, the research of therapy, again, seeking therapists,
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah.
plethora of therapists out there, especially Black and brown therapists. We are on the rise, thank God.
Yeah.
So, you know, really just doing the research to find that therapist, like you said, that's
Yeah.
the right fit. Therapist
Yes.
schedule, some therapists, not all, let me not speak for all therapists,
Yeah.
but some therapists allow consultations where you can interview them and gather more insight on how they, you know, do things within their practice. I know for me, and I don't know if you do the same thing, JT,
Yeah.
in the area that you work, you have to schedule a consultation with me before you're
Mhm.
able to before I'm able to provide services for you, because I want it to be a great experience for you and make sure that, you know, we're the right fit, just like you do with the doctor. You know, you
Yeah.
do your research
Yeah.
on a
Yeah.
doctor before you go to the doctor and, you
Yeah.
know, begin to
Yeah.
develop that relationship.
I actually I have an experience with that actually. Um I've had one client, she was a young woman, husband just left her at home with their like 1 year old child, and she's just down on her luck. And as a therapist, I have to be honest with myself because sometimes, right, even as therapists, we put on this Superman cape and feel like we could, right? We're in this industry because
You
we
can
just
take
love
up
help,
that.
right? We love helping people. So we feel like we can help
Mhm.
everything in the world. It's like a God given call, right? Not everybody can be a therapist. You can't,
It can't.
right? And your friend definitely can't always be your therapist because your friend can give you bad information, right? But at the end of the day, I had to be honest within myself and be like, you know what? I can't relate to this. I'm sorry. And that takes a lot of humbleness and like just
Mhm.
acceptance on my end of like, you know what? I'm gonna get you
Mhm.
somebody who can really help you in this area, who possibly have experienced this divorce maybe, or you know, single mother, and you know that area. So I only say that because I tell a lot of people only go where you know you need to go or you know what you have experience in, because at the end of the day
Of
I could
course.
I could have made that situation worse, speaking
Mhm.
outside of my neck, you know. Um,
Right.
and it's okay if certain therapy, you know, like therapists don't fit, and that's okay. We have to accept that. We have to go through that. And clients go through that. But
Mhm.
like I said, I think um the word normal is terrible, but to each his own, right? With no judgment here, but like just encourage them, right? Encourage them. What do you
Mhm.
want to get out of it? Um,
Mhm.
you know, what are you looking for? And even to
Mhm.
preferences, right? Some people strictly only want to see males. Some people only want to see, you know,
Mhm.
somebody in a different community, right?
Yeah.
Their preferences.
Yeah.
So it's just like the doctors. It's just like the doctors. You know,
Mhm.
you find one, and if you don't feel like it fit, guess what? You're gonna go to another one. So
Mhm.
I say treat it with that same type of care and urgency and intensity. Um,
Yeah.
and
And
just
I think
realize like
mhm.
therapy is not a magic wand. It's not.
Mhm.
It's not a magic
Mhm.
wand. As therapists, we don't have all the answers. We do not.
Right. And we're
But
not there to give you the answers as a therapist,
right.
as well, or to tell you what to do. But to go even back to that question before moving on to the next one, um, I would really think it'll take time to reflect on what has you afraid. Is it the stigma behind, you know, therapy and, you know, what can come up? Because sometimes you might not be ready for therapy if you know, you're
Right.
feeling afraid, or
Yeah.
you know, you have these intense emotions, things
Right.
like that. Yes, the therapist is there to help you sort that out, but you just may not be ready, because when you go to therapy, you then, you know, take it a step further and dive, you know, deeper into that
Yes.
self-development. So
Yes.
it's really asking yourself, what has you afraid? And
Yeah.
then when it comes to the thoughts and, you know, the normal, what will make it, you know, abnormal?
Right. And I think
So
that's where you dive in. Now you're in
yeah,
session with this therapist and just trying to sort that out, you know. And two,
right.
also again, another thing that's important is like as a therapist, we
Mm-hmm.
are handling these people with we have to be careful. we are at state we are in charge of these people's like mental and emotional states, which is like
Right. And
the
they're
best
trusting
half
us.
is the best half of a lot of people. I'm trusting you with my emotional and mental state as the professional.
Right.
And so that's why I say like for therapists out there, you cannot take on everything that you don't have experience in,
Right.
because a lot of times we get blinded by that Superman cape and we're like, man, I can help this, I can help that. You got to take that off and be true to yourself first. You got to be honest with
Right.
yourself. Like, okay, if I ain't got no experience in this, I'm
Hmm.
sorry. I will find you something else. I have a recommendation, or I have this person for you.
Yes. Give
Yeah,
out
you
recommendations.
know.
Yes.
So I
I
think
like that.
that's a good place, with that. Um, and just relating with that person, how they create that environment, an open, welcoming
Hmm.
environment when you step into
Right.
that, when you make that step. If you decide to make that
Right.
step, is no, we won't check off all the boxes, but at the end of the day, keep trying.
Keep, yeah.
Don't give up. Like there's someone out there for you.
For you. And I think again,
Yeah.
it goes back to the interviewing and just asking yourself,
Yeah.
what has you feeling afraid? And then if it's someone just really saying, okay, well, I'll help you go through the process
Yeah.
of finding you a therapist and,
Yes.
calling with you, sitting with you, however you feel comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we have two other questions that
Yeah.
I definitely want to get to because of time. And this question is for you because I do not do couples therapy.
Okay.
So if a partner is naturally confrontational, how would you advise someone to approach that person? With this particular person, sometimes no time can seem like the right time to talk about concerns in a relationship. So, do you write a letter or ask when would be a good time to talk?
Um,
Mm,
that's a good
mm,
question.
mm.
I love that. No, that's
Great
very
question.
good. As part of a training that we all receive out there, there's a Gottman level training, and this is a evidence-based practice for couples therapy. And in this curriculum, in this evidence-based practice, they talk about all different sorts of situations. It talks about just a lot of different scenarios. You have an aggressive spouse versus one who's more passive. You have one who more confrontational than the other, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
so if you have a partner that's naturally confrontational, how would you advise? Okay. I always say if there's something that you need to, I guess, discuss with that person, you always give them a heads up, no matter what. You could shoot them a text. Hey, there's something I need to discuss with you.
It's a trigger for me.
Right.
That's
And
a trigger for me. We need to talk.
yeah,
Oh, everything is going to go through my mind. Oh,
right.
what do we need to talk about? What did I do? Oh my God.
Because sometimes, right, and I think like, what if you're at work? You don't need to have a conversation right now and just ruin the rest of your day. Yes, it might have you wondering, but at least some sort of conversation needs to be had,
Oh, that's going to ruin my whole
right?
day.
Or
I've been there.
you can reassure them, right? That's part of that reassurance where it's like, hey, we need to have a conversation. Everything is okay, but this is just a few things I need to run by you.
Okay, that could
Right.
be,
So that
that
goes
might
along with
help.
approach and delivery, right? How you set those moments up. And now if it's one of those things where you got to come clean about something, okay,
Don't text
that's
me,
something
call me.
different, right? That's
Call
something
me.
different.
But then don't call me because I'm probably gonna hassle you down. Like, wait, hold on. What do we need to talk about?
Yeah, yeah, and I just think when it comes to in that within a relationship,
Hmm.
um communication, we're
Hmm.
compromising, right? Where do y'all meet on the same page with that at least, right? How do I approach you and how do you respond to me, and vice versa? How do I approach you?
Hmm.
How do you respond to me? Or how do I respond
Yeah.
to you? Um, and
I think it's
so,
knowing your partner, like you were saying, it's knowing how to communicate with your partner.
yeah,
Um, is what's coming to mind as you're saying that in the, bringing up the communication aspect. It's just like knowing, okay, if they're coming home from work, no, I'm not gonna spring on you, this, and that.
right.
It's like, okay, I know I need to let them, shower, eat,
Yes.
with her, and then, hey, this came up.
Yeah. Right. You know, so
The
it's
communication, yeah.
right in the and it won't be perfect all the time, but at least right, we
Of
talk
course.
about consideration in marriages. We talk about being considerate. We have to be considerate of that other person. So
Mm-hmm.
this is where kind of empathy sits in, where it's like, how would you feel if this person just sprung this up on you last minute? It happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong, it does happen, but
Mm-hmm.
without forewarning to prepare yourself mentally and emotionally. Okay, I don't know what the news is, but let me prepare myself that I know when I get home, some
It's
sort of
gonna be
conversation,
something.
right? Some sort of conversation has to
Mm-hmm.
happen. So with
Mm-hmm.
somebody who's confrontational, again, I always go back to where do you guys meet in the middle when it comes to communication? Listen,
Mm-hmm.
always listening to each other. It's not a shouting match. It's not about who's right and wrong. It's about let's work together to find a solution if there can be one,
Right,
which
right.
revolves around like listening to each other. You have to listen to
Mm-hmm.
each other.
Yeah. And going back to the question as I dissected a little more, because the person asked, sometimes no time can seem like the right time to ask or talk about concerns in a relationship. So do you write a letter or ask when would be a good time? I think asking when would be a good time is great. Like you said, like, hey, can we sit down? And when you're sitting down, it's making sure that there's no distractions. But also if you feel like writing a letter is the best thing, again, that communication with your partner, I think
Right.
that would be a great way to approach the person as well. But to me, what comes up is really knowing your partner,
Yes.
because there was a time before the confrontation, everything happened, where you guys were able to communicate. So
Right.
what shifted in that relationship dynamic, in that communication, for it now to be um a confrontation all the time?
Hmm. Hmm.
So
Right.
that's what comes up for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Writing a letter is not bad either.
Mm-mm.
Sometimes
I feel like writing a letter might be the best
yeah.
sometimes, because you're able to get everything out. And no, it's
Right.
not writing like a script. You just want to be sure that you're getting everything out when it
Right.
comes to
Right.
concerns. Because sometimes when we talk, it's just like, dang, I forgot to say that.
Yes,
I
yes,
know
and
we
I encourage people. Okay, if you write a letter, you gonna read it to them, right? Or if you
Yeah.
do, give them to her, let them read it, and then y'all kind of like reflect at the end of it. Reflect at the end of
Mm-hmm.
that letter, right? Open
Yeah.
that environment to reflect. Okay.
I like
And
that.
I also talk about like, man, you got to create an environment. If there's some
Mm-hmm.
conflicts that you guys need to work through, man, find you a chair, sit on the couch, and I make my clients hold hands in the middle of the conflict.
Ooh.
Why? Because you're sitting at each other's level. You have my hand, I have your hand. So that reminds you, okay, we're in this together.
Together. I like that.
I'm no better than you. You're no better than me.
Put them in a t-shirt. I seen that. Well, it was more so with siblings,
That's a
but
new one. I have to write that one down.
I see.
You
I
know,
seen that
so
on a. It was with siblings, actually. It was like a TikTok I had seen, and they were in like the t-shirt together because the siblings were like arguing. So it's like, we're
yeah,
gonna be in this t-shirt together.
right. So I like that. It goes back to like knowing your spouse also, but again, I think the positioning is like one of those things where it's like I'm no better than you, regardless if I'm the man of the house, regardless of my stance in this relationship. If I'm more dominant, or right, if we live in a way where I'm the man, I make all the decisions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Also, from male to female, right? I can speak on that. Your wife is your helpmate. You ain't no better,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're there to
Mm-hmm.
serve her. She's there to serve you. Y'all serve each other, which shows like y'all have to work through this together.
Right. It's a
You know,
thing, and that's why
so
you're in a
yeah,
relationship.
it's a few avenues we can go deeper into that, but I would say
Right.
if it's hard for you to approach it in a manner, and this going back to question two, if it's hard to really verbalize it and you feel uncomfortable, write it down. Write it down. Make sure you write either even points, bullet points, certain things that you need to bring up. Write it down and then proceed it like that, right? Create a warm, welcoming environment and just approach it how you need to approach it.
I like that. Okay. Well, because of time, we have another question.
Yeah.
And Josiah, if we have any, excuse me, any other questions, if you could please drop them in the chat and we're going to wrap up, but we do have another question. So JT, do you think holding your thoughts in or holding your feelings to yourself leads to depression?
I think it is a consequence. It's a symptom. Do I think it can lead to depression? I think can it lead to depression? Just the thoughts. Um, ooh, that's a good question. I have to really think. Um, can it lead to depression? So depression is a feeling. I think is more revolved around the feeling, and I think you have to check the thought of it, right? Holding in your feelings. Yes, it does affect people in different ways. Like I said, some people do become angry. Some people have that like that lower tolerance and there's just that buildup of frustration. Um, and I think depression is just a consequence or a symptom of everything else that's around you or going on within you. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like you might feel like nothing in your life is going right based upon what you actually see. It's not going right. Like you dropped out of school, you didn't get a college degree, and you making $10 an hour, and you stressing and you can't afford your bills, right? Or one of the things I do see a lot is like a lot of veterans transitioning out of the military, and
Mm-hmm.
they get in this depressed mood because like it's not the same. Civilian life is totally different than what they were living with military, and so
Mm-hmm.
you you're used to one way, and now you don't know what life is like without that one way. Can lead to
Mm-hmm.
depressed feelings, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
grief, right? We talk about death and grief and stuff like that. Those things
Mm-hmm.
can lead to depression. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a yes and a no in a sense. I think we just really have to look at the bigger picture of like, okay, what is causing this? What's the
Mm-hmm.
cause? Because this is the effect of it. You know, I'm feeling
Mm-hmm.
down. I'm feeling lack of self-esteem. I'm always been bullied, right? So now as you start digging,
Mm-hmm.
you really start to uproot like, okay, this isn't just started because of this. This is something I dealt with at 12 years old or
Right.
7 years old that I've just never learned how to overcome. So I
Right.
think it's a yes and a no in a sense, but you just
Mm-hmm.
it causes you to really dig deep and really dig to the root of certain things, So
Yeah.
um what
Yeah.
what do you think?
No. Well, I was gonna say, just holding anything in could lead to something that's not good
Hmm.
because you're internalizing it, and then you're allowing it to build up.
Right.
So when we hold things in one way or another, we're gonna explode.
Yes.
So I feel like it can lead to, again, having those depressive symptoms. You're holding things in, which then means you're isolating yourself,
Yes.
and you're having all these other thoughts, experiences that can be
Right.
depression symptoms of
Yeah.
depression. So it very much so can, just like it could lead to health issues too,
Yes.
internalizing things, which it could be that chronic stress, that toxic stress, which then plays a part in overall how you feel,
Yeah.
and can cause physical harm as well as mentally
Hmm.
mentally harm you. So
Yeah.
I very much so think it can.
Yeah, and sometimes it is genetic, right? It is generation.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people
Mm-hmm.
think like, okay, my mama dealt with this, my daddy dealt with this, my grandma and my
Mm-hmm.
aunt. So it could be a bloodline thing, right? We talk about that
That's a
stuff
whole
how
nother thing.
that's a whole nother thing with like chemical genetic stuff. So these things, these behaviors and these processes can be passed down generation to generation because right, anger, you seen your daddy act out of whack. So now you think that's the way to deal with things. So
Mm-hmm.
um all in all, right, these are all true emotions. Different things cause these different symptoms and just the symptomology of anxiety, depression, all these different things. But I think it's just
Mm-hmm.
again, come into yourself to recognize, where am I?
Right.
Where am I? And where do I want to be?
Yep. Self-awareness. Self-awareness. This was great, JT.
Yeah.
Because of time, we gonna wrap up.
Yeah.
But if there's any last questions, feel free to drop them in the chat.
Yeah.
JT, while people are dropping their questions in the chat, how do they get in contact with you? Okay, so we're
Yes.
gonna have to.
We'll
I know
find
you
some.
are not holding up your. I can barely see that.
I know. I'm trying. All right. So
I
if
got
you need to
you.
get in contact with me, all right. So I'm based in Tampa, Riverview, Florida. Um, we are always right. I'm not in this practice by myself. So I do work at a private practice. There are plenty of other clinicians, a lot of seasoned clinicians, a lot of it's very multicultural here. So I can say overall, this practice is really good. It's called Renewed Integrative Counseling. We're based here in Riverview, Florida. But
Mhm.
man, we're a Christian based practice, but like I tell folks, like we accept anybody, right? That just it doesn't stop us there, right? We're non biased people. We all happen to be believers, but I think for I could say for every clinician here, we approach it just with openness. And even on our questionnaires, we even ask, "Are you interested in Christian counseling?" Right, and it's our job as therapists to read that. And if it's a no, we respect where you are. We don't push
Mhm.
God on people. We don't push Christianity on people. We meet you right where you are. So if you want to
Mhm.
get in contact with me, or if you want to like get in contact with someone in our office, you can look us up at www.renewedic.com. That's
Mhm.
renewedic.com. Our phone number is 813-444-7116. Okay. Um, we're on Instagram at Renewed Integrative Counseling. You can look us up there. I think we're on Facebook and stuff like that. Um,
Mhm.
we do telehealth, right? A lot of people don't
Mhm.
like telehealth, but actually, I've come around to really like it. It's changed a week.
Telehealth.
It's convenient,
Mhm.
right? So at the end of the day, if you're really a really impactful therapist or really impactful in your services, the point
Mhm.
is get across. So
Mhm.
it's not for everybody, but we do offer
It's not.
in person and telehealth. And if you want to email me directly, okay, if you want to email me, my email is Jamaruz, JAMARUZ at renewed, RENEWEDIC.com. And I know we'll put it in the chat somewhere so you guys can get.
Yeah, we'll put it in for
But yeah,
sure. And
yep,
when we replay this back, I'll definitely um put that in there
yeah. Or you
for
can reach
sure.
out to me Facebook. Again, my name's Jamaruz Tompkins, JAMARUZ Tompkins, THOMPKINS, and it's the same on Instagram too. So, um,
Yes. And
yeah,
I will tag him
yes,
as
yeah, yeah. We're a big community, and you guys hit up Jaleesa too, man. She's we're in this together, and we feed off
we
each
are. We
other.
got to keep the conversation
Yeah.
going
So
around mental health. We breaking the stigma.
yeah.
JT, we will be back.
Yes, I
We'll
appreciate it.
be
It's so
back.
much. I mean, we haven't even talked about the men side of things, right? Y'all got to go
I
watch the last
know.
few we had talking about just men in mental health. So, but
Oh
yeah,
yeah, we gonna have to talk about that for
yes,
sure.
man.
And June is June men's mental health month? I have to go back and look and do
Yeah, I
my
gotta look at it too. Yeah,
I have to
but
do my research and look. But y'all hit JT up. He is accepting new clients.
yes,
I know many people be like, oh, there's not a lot of Black men in the mental health field. JT is well knowledgeable and he does couples,
yes,
um, kids, families. He's your guy.
yes,
Y'all know I also got to shout my dude behind the scenes.
yes.
Yeah. He is graduating and he is graduating tomorrow. So a big, huge shout out and congratulations to
Yes.
him from high
Congratulations.
school. But I always have to shout him out. He's behind the scenes. And again, he's graduating and he's still here with us tonight. Helping out and showing love. So Josiah, you are amazing. Again, I can't thank you enough for all that you have done for Talk About It Tuesday and Hope Anchors the Soul. And the website, y'all be sure to go over to hopeanchorsthesoul.com and check out Josiah's work. He is amazing. He has posted the upcoming events we are having. You can also find the replay of mine and JT's talk, as well as on YouTube. So again, y'all hit us up. We thank you for your time today. JT, thank you again.
Yes, no, thank you. Man, y'all give it up for Jaleesa, man. I just love this. I call this thing hashtag mission put you on, man. Like, we love you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, you created something an opportunity, right? Never in a million years I see myself on platforms like this, right? And it's these small beginnings that get you big, and it's not about big, but it's just like just creating this for everybody, so I appreciate you so much.
I thank you. And I know we reached at least one person, and that's my biggest goal. I used to be like, I want to change the world. And it's just like, no, I just need one person to hear what we have to say. So JT, thank you for your gems. Thank you for your knowledge. Everyone, thank you for tuning in. We won't have a Talk About It Tuesday next week, but I have a very, very special conversation actually, and it's going to be Sunday. So we're not doing Talk About It Tuesday because we're going to have a special guest on Sunday. And I'm going to drop the flyer tonight. It's my little cousin who just graduated from high school in Colorado, and she has done some amazing work within her community. So y'all please be sure to tune in, show her some love. I know she's a little nervous to do it from when we were talking, but she's really, really excited. She's really, really excited because she asked me about it. So I'm just so excited for her to do this. So y'all please tune in. Please share the flyer. It's going to drop again tonight. So yes, again, JT, thank you, thank you, thank you. Josiah, thank you, thank you, thank you. And we out.
We out, man. Y'all go take care of yourself. See y'all.
Bye.